Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Get ready to find your free will from your roots in the stars.
Hi, it's Sue Rose Minahan, Talk Cosmos, and tonight is, and I hope you can hear me okay, because I'm having static. It's like Chaos City. We're in an Aquarius stellium, and I must be a battery, because it's like landing right here. You probably saw a lot of antics, and hey, that's Aquarius, isn't it? Okay, tonight is the Moonbeam Team, and it is January 23, 2021. And we, let's see, the team advises the current transits for our events and how we're going to shift that luminary energy, transforming our weaknesses to potential strengths, and how to release emotional blocks for creativity. Hey, the full moon is in Leo. Or what opportunities the individual may contribute for the betterment of a community. It's a new moon in Aquarius. So we complete a year as, and somebody's making a little noise there. Maybe they can kind of tone that down. Thanks. Completes a year, and we are now on YouTube, which some of you are watching, and others, if you're listening on the podcast, which we are still always available in all the archives since we began in 2018. And if you are watching the YouTube channel on Talk Cosmos, because 1150 KKNW has one also, we're doing a daily chat. It's a short little thing, maybe about 10 minutes. And the Moonbeam Team individually will be presenting a little excerpt from their viewpoint for the full moon this coming week, and then ahead of the new moon. So when are those? They are January 28th in just 5 days. And I'm still hearing a little bit of paper material. Maybe somebody there, I don't know. I can't see you. Thanks. Is on the 28th. And then the Aquarius one, it will be on February 11th. Okay, and now it's time for the Moonbeam Team.
Relating to the sun and moon's energies, including the planets and the entire cosmos for the month's systematic 2-week intervals of the new moon and full moon, plus the annual 4 to 5 eclipses, this is your Moonbeam Team.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, stories to poetry. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing eternity, and I'm a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of body, spirit of people, animals, and nature.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, certified astrologer, sacred healing counselor, tarotist, and numerologist, providing individual consultations, teaching and tutoring internationally, co-author of Gateways to Change, Keys to Navigating the Seas of Life, currently facilitating workshops in Marysville and Camino Island, Washington.
I'm Katherine Metcalf, professional astrologer, intuitive, and tarot card reader. I am very blessed to live my passion by offering individual consultations and teaching classes at a local college and online. I love to talk and write about the planetary dances and how we fit into it. I have been lucky enough to be featured on NBC, Cosmopolitan Magazine, and Huffington Post. My goal is to educate, enlighten, and empower you.
And I'm Sara Stromley, a craniosacral therapist and founder of Brain Body Therapy in Kirkland, Washington. I'm an evolutionary astrologer that incorporates different forms of horary, location mapping, and medical astrology into my practice. I enjoy uncovering flower and mineral frequencies that also support the mind-body coherence that aid in the healing journey.
And as Albert Einstein said,
energy is never destroyed.
Energy only changes.
Well, there we are. And we have a new member. This is exciting. We have 4 in a panel. 1, 2, 3, 4, the foundation. Now we begin this with each of us presenting some kind of a statement that we think incorporates the energy. And this isn't just to advise that is the whole energy. No, it's just something. It's like, hey, I like that decoration in the corner. Or, gee, you can move that out of the way. It's kind of blocking the scene. Something like that. Mine is going to be that this energy is leading. And if I may say, I don't think it's us, but somebody's doing a lot of sound background. I don't know where it's coming from. But just as an FYI, I feel like I'm in the river. Thank you. So yes, we're leading rebirth, and it's communicating transformation. All right. So Sara, what would be your quick take?
Well, I think it's just a time to really help integrate being in our bodies. There's just a lot of excitement and change and speed with everything. It's just a whirlwind. So I think there's things that we may revisit and things we need to move towards, but we just need to stay focused on how we can come together and make this work better.
All right. And Katherine Metcalf, what would you say? That's your feedback.
So I think the full moon in Leo is an invitation to step back from our ego a little bit and see how we can incorporate other energies, right? And with Aquarius, with the new moon, we've got 6 planets in Aquarius on February 11th. So I think that's a huge invitation to transform, to be progressive, to think outside the box.
Great. I agree. And Liz, how would you like to add to this pot?
Well, looking at the full moon chart, it has a T-square and a grand cross. So to me, that's always making adjustments, and there's challenges. But my advice is breathe and go with the flow.
Well, I think I'll have to start adhering immediately. Yes, indeed, it is. So this Leo full moon, that is at 9 degrees and 6 minutes on the 28th of January, in a few minutes. And it has, let's see, I'm going to pull up my chart because we're not going to show it here for everybody. Everybody can focus on their timing, but I think the one that we're reading from is based in New York. So, yeah, how are we going to change that block to any creativity? That moon is in Leo, and it is opposing not only the sun, but Jupiter exactly. Maybe it's just the awareness of our philosophy, and then with Saturn as that all in Aquarius, so it has the trio of it's sitting between the grand conjunction, really, of inspiration.
Yeah, this lunatation, I mean, there's Saturn is this moon is opposite the rule maker of Saturn, Jupiter, the rule bender. Let's square that. And then it's also squaring the Mars, Uranus, which are the rule breakers. So, and the fact that it's conjunct the planet Hygeia, and Hygeia was a very big deal in the discovery chart of when we discovered COVID. I think there's this gristling that's going to be happening because Leo needs that sense of fullness of self-expression and being seen and heard. And I think the mandate and the policy change of being forcefully doing mask wearing, I think can just rub people the wrong way. So there's a large chunk of our population that still has fallen prey to some misinformation that COVID is a conspiracy or that because they feel good and they don't see anyone sick, that and there's a vaccine now, that this is just all blown out of proportion and isn't necessary. So it is a little bit dangerous in my opinion. That
Well, really,
perception.
it is really focused on that T-square, isn't it? But I was looking at science, and I'm thinking out of this science, because the nodes being in North Node in Gemini and Uranus in Taurus, but that whole energy between to manifest between Earth and of Taurus and Uranus. I mean, not Uranus, but Aquarius of yes, of Aquarius, thank you, of all of that. The science is unbelievable. When you mention COVID, they've been, it's forcing science to collaborate, and the biology, the direction is going at just a fantastic rate, finding, and I could go on, but at the moment I want a conversation here, so I'm trying to inspire. That's true. Yeah. So lead on, folks. But because there's, okay, I'll stop.
Do you care if I hold up the chart so people can see it?
Can you share it online, or I don't know if you can.
No, not on this. As I say, I had a bit of a scattered
Okay.
T-square myself, and go ahead. That's great.
I just thought it'd be fun for people to see what it actually looks like.
Good.
So this is the full moon down here, okay? And it's opposing, well, I can't get my directions right. It's opposing Jupiter and the Sun and Saturn. And then if you flip it, so this is why we call it a T-square. Boy, everything on here is backwards. Okay. So see the T, people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's the T-square to Mars and Uranus. So I actually saw it as, the T-square to Mars, Uranus conjunction, and Black Lilith, right? So, and she's rebel energy and unrest. And I thought it's time to move out of our comfort zone, right? We have to face our shadow and embrace a new creative approach. Right?
And yes, here I'm jumping in. I know Liz has full of stuff, but I'm remembering that Dr. Jill Biden, on the first day of their new presidency, had an education forum. I'm thinking of the innovative ways that for community, and along with that T-square, the productivity of it, I'm trying to say, that's already getting ignited. And according to some of these scientific things, they're looking at giant clams that can synthesize algae better instead of these large farms, because it has a lot to do with sunlight that is efficient process. And I didn't realize clams had algae inside of them, but the fact being that there's going to be so much attention, I think constructive work, because of that T-square, that Liz mentioned and that you brought up, Katherine, that with biology and science, it'll be huge. Liz, what's on your mind?
Well, this full moon for the chart cast in Washington, D.C., the chart ruler is the moon, and it's in the second house in Leo. So our values are probably being reevaluated and challenged in some way. I would say just take a look at our values and see how that's going. Do we need to make an adjustment? Maybe we don't, but it's like, look at our own, and then we can look at others.
Well, actually, having checked some science, the news, I'm in Hawaii, we don't get the newspaper, so I'm going to have to check online. And what it was saying was about carbon in the land and soil. Now, I know, Katherine, you live in the Midwest, and probably there's a lot of farmers there. And so whenever anyone reads about, and Sara, I know you're so involved with health in different ways, and I'm sure too about the soil, that it can help mitigate this, the fuel that we're burning and putting into the air, and include in the earth. Okay.
So I actually looked at the Sabian symbols, which are really kind of interesting for people that don't know what they are. It was created by two people. So Elsie Wheeler, who was was she the psychic? And
Yes.
then, yeah. And now I'm forgetting his name, the main guy.
Ruger, isn't it? Or
No, it's not Dane Ruger. Okay. So
That's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
Mark
Mark Edmund Jones.
Yes.
Hello.
Mark Edmund Jones. Yes, that's all right.
I was having a senior moment. Sorry.
Yeah, it was good. There's lots of thoughts getting threaded. Yes.
Yeah. So, but they actually sat down and picked out. So he's an astrologer, and he had laid out cards with 360 degrees, of all the zodiac signs. And then I think it was like Johnny Carson and his partner, when they did Karnak the Magician. So,
Oh, yes.
so they sat down together,
late
Mark
night
Edmund
show.
Jones and Elsie Wheeler, and she just told him what she saw when he said, Libra 10 or whatever. And it's astounding the stuff that comes through, with that. So, so the Sabian symbol, you always do 1 degree higher. So I looked at the moon. The moon is at 9 degrees Leo. So 10 degrees Leo is the Sabian symbol. And it's early morning dew salutes the sunlight. And I thought, how lovely is that?
That,
Yeah.
actually, that has a lot to do with my clam that I was just talking about, because
Yes.
it has to do, about the sunlight coming through the water, and it's this diffusion. Actually, there's a lot more about it, but the role they play is it goes deeper into the cell, and it scatters this sunlight to form that process. Really, when you think about recycling sustainable energy, this could be such a growth, for times to come. And this could be one of the beautiful starts of that energy, the Aquarius energy, the stellium and T-square motivation, because Uranus and Mars, we know that have been conjunct, they're just separating, but it's still squaring. The strongest feature in this chart is Jupiter conjunct the sun, both at 9 degrees, opposite the moon. Of course, Saturn's involved, and all these planets. But that philosophy and expansion, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Can use more. So
yeah, and at the time of this that we're recording right now and airing, and we're still coming off of this giant Mars square Jupiter, which was at its peak today, and that's just a very impassioned energy that's ignites, and I think this moon can help release some of that passion, hopefully in a creative and fun way. That's a much better expression for Leo. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
well, and then with the Mars and Uranus, it's like Uranus is opening it up to open our minds to bring in new ideas and ways to do things.
The
So I like that.
courage, absolutely. Yes. And the cause or defense. Not so much defending, I trust. We've gone through quite a bit of Mars defense, but fighting for that new causes, as we're all, and the do, that's it's very powerful and hopeful. All that Aquarian that is looking over, it has hopes. So we're clearing the way, always with a full moon. It's illuminating, right? And clearing the way to
And we're
reseed.
We're in the middle of the lunar gestation cycle that began July 31st of 2019 at 8 degrees Leo. And then we had the first quarter in April of 2020. And then now we're at the full moon phase. And then we'll have the third quarter in October of 2021, and it'll end July 28, 2022. So we're right in that middle of that phase.
So when did my sound, I apologize, I'm a little struggling over here with some of my technology, and as I had said, there's a lot of Aquarius energy, but that started July 31st of last year, you're saying?
2019, because the lunar gestation cycle is a 3-year cycle. And then the yearly lunar cycle, the new moon was August 18th of 2020. And so of the yearly cycle, we're in the middle of it now with the full moon.
I did pull those charts, and this is a subject that we'll kind of begin to talk a little bit more about, maybe whether we all or not. And I pulled it up with this particular chart as a bi-wheel. So it would have been August 18, 2020 as the center, and then with January 28th as the outside. And interestingly, I saw that Mars, which is at 10 degrees Taurus, is exactly conjunct Uranus at that time. So isn't that it really, when we think about it, innovative change that is one way of really expressing how strong.
Well, and for the Washington, D.C. chart, we have Uranus and Mars in the 11th house. So to me, it's like the light bulb moment of turning on of like, oh, I didn't realize X, whatever X could be. It's like, oh, that's what it is. Oh, okay. Now becoming an awareness.
Well, also it would be, the moon would be this moon for this full moon on the 28th. And the bi-wheel from last year, just to see where we are at the half point. And I'm translating that so that I can understand and my audience can understand, and the other panelists. The moon is in the 6th house at 9 degrees with 14 degrees at the descendant, meaning it's in the 6th house. And I kept wondering with COVID, and that's the public, the moon could be the public. And we are all experiencing so strongly, not only COVID, but everything associated with it. The tests and interestingly with the North Node in Gemini, I know that the new administration is really seeking to get the vaccine out, but it's really a matter, I think, of showing how with Gemini, they're needing to build new communication sources because they're not getting the information back from the states. So I think all of us are really going through this process. Would you say, all of you, about developing deep senses of communicating? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Leo can be, one of its strengths is really good at organizing. So maybe this lunatation will really help shine some emphasis on that.
Yeah.
Well, I think of them as delegating. They are the center stage, and so they delegate out. So I suppose that's part of it too.
Yeah, I know in the Sabian symbol book that I was looking at, they describe that 10 degrees Leo, as the early morning dew saluting the sunlight. But they also said the space between the dark night of the soul and the sunrise. And when I read that, I was like, oh, that is so true of where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's beautiful.
It is. Not all Sabians are so illustrative. It's in that twilight of luminal time. In fact, I listened to Thomas More. He was on East West Books last night, and he wrote the Care of the Soul among maybe 30 other books. I was so amazed. And he was saying that we are in this transitional liminal time. Liminal time. He was saying that friendship was one of the best things we could do to care for our soul, that it gives us love, and that the soul wants home and wants love. It wants these natural things. It's not really caring in his expression whether we spiraled up towards the larger. It really liked being on the ground and looking at the past for history, which
That's so cool. And Aquarius, is all about friendships, right? So, yeah, I love that.
Well, and with that grand square with the nodes of the moon, and then Vesta and Neptune, that's kind of like how can, we can look at what the past has been, and it's like how can we change and move forward to the future.
Mm-hmm.
And might not be the first.
Like, what is our hearth? Mm-hmm. And the oneness hearth. Thinking of Vesta as the asteroid, the goddess of the hearth. That's HERTH. H with a heart. Yeah, it's the most amazing English word.
Well, and a lot of people are changing. What was they needed in a home a year ago is very different than what they need in a home today. So lots of people are moving, and that's just one example.
Yeah, that's very true. People are having to do work out of their, offices. I mean, for those of us that have been self-employed for a while, that's not a big deal. But I think for people that are used to being out, it was a huge shift for them to come home. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be likely the trend of the time. Well, this is January 23 with the Moonbeam Team, and we will be back in a moment after this little announcement. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Aquarius, ruled modernly by Uranus and Saturn in traditional astrology by the ancients. By leaving a cycle based on governing structures through both man-made and universal laws, Aquarius breaks established patterns, permitting the energy of freedom, just as its ruling planet Uranus spins on its side and orbits backwards. As a fixed air sign represented by the water bearer pouring the spirit of cosmic energy, Aquarius seeks to find like-minded, intuitively aligned souls to connect in social groups for the elevation and improvement of all.
This is Dawn Glinsky from 6 O'Clock Astrology, and you're listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk 1150 AM, where we discuss the meaningfulness of our roots in the stars.
You found us. Maybe you've been guided to listen. Alternative Talk 1150.
Well, that sure brings us back, and I wanted to say that Talk Cosmos, the leading edge astrology conversations, as heard here on 1150 KKNW, is changing from Saturdays to Sunday at 1 p.m. And that'll begin on March 7th. And the entire podcast collection since 2018, when we began, is always available to hear on most podcast carriers. But now watch weekly shows on Talk Cosmos YouTube channel. And in fact, you can connect by doing that to the new daily short chat edition that we're having. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up was that next week on the 30th will be the East-West Astrologers panel. And they're having a follow-up with their astrology outlook for 2021. And there are 5 possible astrologers that will be on this panel: Ray Couture, Karen Wenderland, Raphael Finch, Denny Luna, and Justin Elsey. So that'll be quite exciting. And you can, I don't know if people will be calling in or not, but this is in conjunction with East West Books Shop that is in the Seattle area, where, of course, the 1150 KKNW is also broadcast from. But tonight is the Moonbeam Team, the Aquarius Moonbeam Team, on January 23rd. And we have Liz Muschett, Katherine Metcalf, and Sara Stromley with myself. And we've been talking about that full moon on the 28th of January. how to remove those emotional blocks for creativity is one way to look at it. And actually, just by doing so with all that T-square energy and that we were noticing as the moon was staring across at our philosophy and limitations and how to activate and break the rules as we made the rules. A lot happening there. And so we dissect it to some degree. So we're going to go into February 11th. That's in a few weeks. And that also begins the Chinese New Year, which we will talk about in other sessions. But that happens to be at 23 degrees Aquarius. And we're still using the East Coast timing for that. So it happens to be 2:06 p.m. And, this one really is, I think, an exciting chart when we bring it in with the USA chart. But we could talk just about the chart itself, because one of the big features, well, there's how many features can we pull? And it's really, right. But, Mercury at 18 degrees Taurus is exactly square.
That's Mars.
Oh, it was Mars. Thank you. I was looking at my glyph. Thank you, Liz. Boy, that's teamwork. See? Teamwork. We're beginning. Yeah. Mars, our action planet, rooted to the earth and our sense of survival, but also our values, as we've been bringing up very strongly, and our finances, so many elements, how that manifests, is really wanting to look at
I'm sorry, someone's making a lot of shuffling noise. Dave, is that on the studio side? I'm not sure. I don't see anybody moving on our side. Too. I don't know if he can mute.
Yeah, there is somebody.
Okay.
Thank you. I've been noticing that because I don't think it's us. I mean, if we're moving papers and books, because it is distracting. I know. It's all that static coming from the energies. Okay. Anyway, there's a big square there as it is squaring Mercury. So it's Mars and Mercury, the thinking. So we're thinking and acting right now, but it's tied into this just really so strongly. Do people have some thoughts on this, or do we want to go to the US chart with it?
Yeah, it's just a really exciting, nerve-wracking, agitating time. I mean, it's so packed. I mean, it's 6 or 7 if you consider Pallas Athena in there, which is luckily the goddess of wisdom and diplomacy.
Thank God she's there.
Yeah. And it's like Sue said, it's also it's the Asian New Year, which is for half the globe, and it's year of the ox, which is also ties into this Aquarian, Uranus in Taurus theme. So you can just really sense a big global paradigm shift of the sacred cow, or our relation with earth and air, and that dynamic.
Very good. And again, I'll bring back that idea that science, Gemini has the arts and the science. Aquarius is definitely science. And the conjunction was in Aquarius. And right now we're in the month of the stellium. But the fact is that looking at innovation, what did you just say, Sarah, about the particular innovation, or was that just erupting in my brain about so much of the...
Oh yeah, I mean it. Another thing I was really considering with Taurus, this, right. Uranus and Taurus.
Biology.
Yeah, Mercury is slowing to near station at this time, which is normally lightning fast, or in Aquarius, it's just super brilliant, smart, and it comes up with all kinds of amazing things. But it's really getting aggressively squared with Mars. That's challenging the changes that are coming maybe too fast for his comfort, and this is a reminder to pause and reflect on what's being reflected back to us with those challenges. And I really appreciate Lynn Bell's talk that I listened to recently on how strong these themes of duality are playing out with this transition. We have this shared rulership of Saturn and Uranus for Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius. And this moon, both the moon and Mercury are in that Aquarius theme. And the image of Janus, the two-headed god who has an older facing face that goes backwards and a younger facing that goes forward. And then there's also these pairs that are interestingly with the transiting North Node in Gemini. There's these nodes are so highly activated between Vesta and the Neptune. So it just shows that there's two sides to consider here.
Which is totally Gemini too.
Yeah, like there's two different truths that are happening, two different realities. And this is, the divide between our country right now is maybe never more apparent.
Absolutely. When you look at this chart with the USA, the North Node right now at 17 degrees Gemini is conjunct between our natal Mars at 21 and our descendant. So it is really the diversity, but the two realities. I see that also. I was thinking, really, it is the fact that we could all go to the same movie, but we have two different stories that we come back with. It's just, and I think that sense, that recognition will help us, because it is a matter of learning how to use our words, and science is helping with it too. It's so much science with the biology, with Uranus and Taurus. I know there's things I've been trying to spit out and trying to connect and support as each of us are saying. But in that language, there are words like I was trying to understand, like, what are they saying? Realizing it's a whole other language, and it's an important language so that scientists, wherever they're talking, of course, like medicine, can communicate. But in doing so, people are learning how to expand their consciousness from where they're at, their locality, to the cultural one of the other. So on macro and micro.
I would say with February, with this new moon, with the sun and moon and Pallas all together, sextile in Eris and sextile in Pluto, that people are coming up with some ideas and looking at the shadows, and it's like they're all working together. They're cooperating. So I really like to see that in this chart. It looks great.
Yeah. Can I show this chart again?
Sure.
I guess I'm a very visual person.
Well, usually we do, Catherine, but I couldn't get I'm on an iPad. I don't have my.
Okay.
I can't share on this system.
Yeah.
So
forgive me,
I'm
since
glad
it's,
you're doing
I'm a virgin here. So.
Yes. Thank you.
So yeah, it's just cool to see all of the, the 6-7 planets, if you count Pallas Athena, in the 8th house of, the 8th house has always felt very intuitive to me. And so to have all this Aquarian energy there, progressive Aquarian energy, I think is way cool. And incorporating the science with the intuition. So, and coming up with something unique. So, and I looked up, go ahead.
No. I was just thinking that does support just what Liz was talking about, this intuitive. Yes, the Sabian. Thank you.
Yeah. So the Sabian symbol is 24 degrees Aquarius. And it says it's a man turning his back on his passions, teaches deep wisdom from his experience. So it said a shift in priorities, learning from our mistakes, being better prepared to move forward. And this brings us an opportunity to be an example of how to live well. It's a new moon, right?
Beautiful.
New beginning.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
with all those planets, with all the planets in the 8th house, it's like a time to transform.
Right.
I was thinking that code word transformation that we brought up in the beginning. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and instead of focusing on this polarity, because I mean the thrumming declaration of Aquarius is I know, I know, I know. And you know, it creates this sense of polarity, right? I mean, there's a lot of polarity going around, but it just ratchets it up. So just recognizing there's more to know. And there is more than one truth. And you know, if we shift our focus on, okay, how are we going to travel safely again? Let's focus on that. You know, how are we going to uncover things about ourselves that are unique and worthy of collaborating to make something that can be created into something truly greater, and finding ways to really bring us together.
You know, last night, I love this, all of the energy. Listening to Thomas More, this great author and elder, and people were asking other therapists about helping youth. And what he came out was, that reminds me of what you're saying about how to uncover ourselves, Sarah, is that he was saying, listen to stories of each other's. And I was thinking about listening. I was, you know, Larry King just passed, the great journalist on TV. And what people commented about him was listening. And I was thinking, in Gemini, with a conversation of talking, and I was just here settling down and able to listen more, and recognizing that in Taurus, which is this between the archetype of, which we've been repeating about, the Aquarian, that we're elevating with a thought process, with this strong sensual physicality of Taurus, which is going to stay with us because Uranus is there for another 5 years. That listening, that Venus, the ruler that rules both Taurus and Libra, that listening is so important. So taking our stories and sharing them, and also listening to another. I think what he was trying to say is, Thomas More, that it validates that it brings heart, it brings connection to other, you know, to another person's reality, and maybe we can learn how to speak, and people can feel like they can be empowered, that dignity. You know, I'm wrapping it all together so that people can really contribute. I hope that would.
Amen, girl.
Be wonderful.
That's an important thing.
Well, in this chart, Jupiter and Venus are conjunct. So that feels really good, that people will come from their heart more.
Yeah.
So it feels like this big shift.
Well, yeah, they're only 11 minutes off of each other. So it's really, they're cuddling, they're canoodling.
They left
super powerful.
They left from the sun at the full moon, which yet hasn't happened, of course. We're projecting here at 9 degrees, from that eagle sense of philosophy to the heart. Oh, thank you for mentioning that. That's very strong.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think poetry, like writing poetry, and you know, Uranus in Taurus, that rules the neck. So singing it, singing songs that inspire you, that kind of like, or just bouncing around, like this is like a big antenna energy, so you could be pulling in things as well. But you know, just, it's like if there's a song that catches your ear and is like, it's just like bubble gum, it's stuck in your head and it's just replaying, write it down. Like, there's a message there. There's something to take away.
I love that in conjunction with the South Node, because we are uniting, you know, integrating, and in Sagittarius, it wants us to express. So through a song, why not? Yeah, like sing a song. Isn't that a song, I think? One of the songs.
Yes.
Yeah.
But one of my girlfriends and I, we were both commiserating on a situation that was just frustrating us both to no end, and we started making up a rap song. We're just going through and like, I don't know, I've never done that before, but it was really therapeutic.
Yeah, I bet you felt powerful doing that.
I would never repeat it because, it was a lot of colorful language and a lot of politics involved, but yeah, it felt very cathartic. So
That could, that would be a great new online meetup or something like that, because I was thinking online is definitely where society is going with all this Aquarian energy. I remember once on Laugh-In, the old TV show, it always struck me funny that a bunch of people got in a room, and the idea was that it was a conductors club. And so they put on the music and they're all there going like this, conducting. So it was the same idea, trying to manifest, connect. Yeah. And Western music, I often have thought was the beginning of rap. Because when you listen to Western, oh, my mama, she washed the dishes. And all she had to do,
yeah.
take the cows out of the barn. And it's really true. Or blues, like, I'm so lonesome.
Yeah, just a long stream of thought,
I mean, sometimes that's better than some of the music that just goes on one little stanza, 4 words. It's like celebrate. It's like, okay, but tell me how, Yeah, music is huge. What with Neptune squaring the nodes, I don't think we can get enough movies, enough song, enough poetry. And that was another thing Thomas More was saying. So constructive.
Well, there's a young man that was in the news today, and I'm not going to remember his name, but he did a rap song the day before the inauguration, and it's famous now. And then Amanda Gorman, I mean, her books are bestsellers now, and look at the poetry she shared with us a few days ago. And
absolutely,
she was amazing. And speaking of conducting, that's funny because I felt like when she was talking, did you guys notice how she used her fingers?
Yeah,
her hands.
Using the wavy hands, and normally that would be considered somewhat eccentric, but it worked.
It worked for her. She's the next Maya Angelou.
Oh, she is. And interestingly, because I did a talk on her for my little mini chat, which each of you will be doing this week for our audience. Do check the YouTube channel, Talk Cosmos, and you'll hear Liz, Muschett, and Katherine Metcalf, and Sara Stromley give their little synopsis of things. But I did one on Amanda Gorman, and I didn't realize, but that she'd had a speech problem when she was young, along with Maya Angelou, who also did, and Dr. Jill Biden. So I thought, isn't that amazing? These really strong individuals, because right now with all this Gemini North Node and then Aquarian, which is the higher octave with Uranus of Mercury, that the blockages that became overcome.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think is really important to point out on this chart, because it's just a big buildup and it's already there really, is that Saturn square Uranus. And you covered that in your, is it with Laura Tad and is that Cosmic Collaboration or which?
No, that's Planet Buzz. It's
Planet Buzz. You covered on Planet Buzz with
Leslie Francis and Tara All and Laura Tad. Right.
And Laura Tad, yeah. So that was an amazing show. I encourage everyone to go back into your archives and listen to that because there is so much there that we don't have time to go into it. So.
Well, and this chart is also ruled by the moon, but this time the moon is in Aquarius and it's in the 9th house. So, thinking maybe more globally or worldwide.
That again supports this idea of the science, because the science that they're collaborating and sharing data was just amazing. That really is a no-brainer, you think, but the need because of COVID, this birthing, and I think also it was the idea that you're mentioning, Sarah, of the Renaissance afterwards, that, this year is a particularly difficult year, perhaps different than last year that was totally blindsided us. We didn't know what we were dealing with. Now it's how do we deal with it? And not only how do we deal with COVID and everybody culturally being immigrants, everybody culturally, I think, having left some norm that they had to reestablish. But it's the fact that it was the grand mutation going into air from Earth. And this first year, traditionally going back to history, and I know we all love history here on this panel, particularly a few, that it's always been very difficult. So there's challenges, but because of that, this Renaissance idea that I'm bringing in, science is one way of bridging and forcing us to just do what you culturally interconnect with people. Maybe there'll be great gifts and less division, right? Because we'll know that, we may say tomato and tomato different, but who cares? It's
still made sauce.
It still tastes the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
Absolutely.
a little olive. Yeah. Which is olive. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm coming back from those old cartoons. Maybe we need new pictographs. Anyway, yes, Sarah.
But yeah, one other thing I want to add with just all this Aquarius energy. I think it was like 62 when the last time we got a big hit of Aquarius like this. And it was during that time, it was the big hippie era, the Beatles invasion. It was peace, love, and rock and roll. and a lot of protesting going on.
So you say 19.
A lot of civil unrest.
A lot of civil unrest. Women's rights movement really was quite big.
Ecology was huge.
Yeah. We're rerunning it.
We're
there again. Yeah.
And, interestingly, in 2012 to 2015, there was a square between between Uranus and Pluto that had that conjunction in 65, 66, in that era that you're talking about, preempted it in 66. But really, just like these vibrational continuation just really keep expanding as you pick up the thread, whether it's civil justice and nutrition, or whether it's peace, how do we make the common neighborhoods of brotherhood one and for all. Boy, there's exciting challenges. There's opportunities. I guess that's really the twist, isn't it? How to see that light. Who brought up the liminal, right? We're in the liminal.
And there's just a lot of just broadcast messaging going on just from our brains. We're picking up, we're pushing out a lot of intuition and unseen communication and collective information it's just a big download. So it's important to stay in our bodies. I mean, this can have a lot of just really, it can be discombobulating, but it's just important to really focus. What is your broadcast message? And what do you want to pull in? Like, try to put a filter on it.
Ooh, that really gets back to this idea of we're putting carbon in the earth and the earth loses it to the air. I mean, it's a whole cycle. It's scientific. Well, how do we want to use our land? How do we want those values? And like you're saying, so many threads, like the light with the Sabian symbols or the transformation that we brought up. This is a really pretty potent full moon, new moon, and exciting. It has that creativity. Yeah, it has that new elevation. Next week will be the Northwest Astrologers, and tonight I have the Moonbeam Team with Sara Stromley from Washington and Liz Muschett from Washington and Katherine Metcalf from Illinois. And I'm here in Kailua Kona. And when the music starts, we still have about a minute, so not to panic, folks. But we have quite a few threads that we can finish. Yeah, it is priorities. I love that. There's a Sabian. We're shifting those priorities. We're downloading and breathing. Anybody want to throw on a word? Yeah.
Well, Chinese New Year, it's like a new year. We can use it too. So looks more like a new year chart to me than the new year chart did.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Time for new beginnings.
Yeah, so folks, do tune into our YouTube channel, Talk Cosmos, because this week everybody will be talking a little bit more on the chat. And subscribe, and we do love you. We're so glad to have you, and thank you. So,
Thank you for listening to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Be sure to tune in next Saturday at 6 p.m. to continue finding your roots in the stars.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host.
Can we talk?
I'm here.
Is it still recording? I think it's still.